Well, hey folks, good to see everybody. Uh, Starting a live stream much earlier today. It is just a little past noon Pacific time. And for today's Inktober, the prompt word was, what was it? Spell. And that went through so many iterations. I felt like drawing a female character, so I was considering Zatanna, Scarlet Witch, Sabrina Spellman. But ultimately, I just felt like drawing Ilyana Rasputin, Magik. And yeah, hello Sigamigs, hello Aldi. Nice to see folks here. So yeah, I've got today off, and I've decided that I'm just gonna bang this one out kind of earlier in the day. It's a different time, but we've got 31 days. I figured if I do it early, maybe there's a chance certain people will be able to see it right now that might not get to on other evenings when I have to do it late. So, hello everybody. Knight of Akatosh, Nintendude, Adrian Paler. So yeah, just I've lightboxed a light sketch here, and without any further ado, I'm gonna get to inking it. And thank you all for joining. That's really amazing. Wasn't necessarily sure how many folks would be able to join right now, but I figured that there was at least a chance I could hit some folks that don't always get the chance to jump in. So that's my logic anyway. And yeah, it's just really nice to see some folks in here. Lots of people. Sladana Velikovochik. Software Agents TV says, I got a new job. Congratulations. That's wonderful news. Somebody from Argentina, La Cura, is joining us. That's pretty awesome. Let's see. Sigmigs has to commute. Sorry. Trin Fan Min Dewey is here from Vietnam. Vietnam. I'd love to visit Vietnam someday. Yeah, we'll see. One of my coworkers is from Vietnam. So, hello, Mr. Incredible. Hello, Nathaniel Rhodes. You know what? I think this isn't necessarily focusing quite right. Give me a moment to make an adjustment here. Yep, autofocus was turned on. Okay, and I'll zoom in a little bit. Yeah, I think that's a little bit of a better shot for now. And moving forward. How's everybody's, what's today? Thursday, right? Yeah, how's everybody's Thursday going? I hope everybody's well. And I'm just blocking out a sword. Ilyana has always, she's a mutant, one of the New Mutants originally, now one of the X-Men. And she's always had something called her soul sword. So that's actually, she's had about 3 different iterations of it, but I'm just drawing the most recent one, or at least the most recent one that I know of. Am I drawing Magik? I am. Let's see. TARDIS Riders here, thank you. Yeah, I'm so glad that a bunch of folks were able to make it. That's really nice to see. I'm grateful. So is anyone going to see Venom today? Has anyone decided that they're going to take a chance, see what it's like? I really don't know if I'm going to. You know, I'm curious no matter what, but I also have so little free time that it's like, is it really worth paying a bunch of money for something that I don't know is going to be good? I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Just doing some of my straight lines initially, then I'm going to grab one of my thicker brush pens and start doing sort of the outlines and foreground shapes of this character, and then we'll take it from there, see where we go from there. Using my cork raised ruler to just block in some of that stuff. I don't know if you can hear that, but I live right across the street from an elementary school, and kids seem to have staggered like recess break or something, and they just scream when they're out there. They're all just sort of like running around the playground chasing each other. It sounds very loud to me, but I don't know if you can hear it or not. I hope you don't hear it like as loud as I hear it anyway. They're so loud that I bet it does get picked up on the mic a little when I'm not talking, but at the same time, like this microphone can barely pick me up, so I'm really hopeful that in turn it doesn't pick them up too much, or at least enough to make it a distracting live stream. But if you hear children sort of screaming, I'm not torturing anyone. That is just them having their recess. And they are crazy wound up all the time, it seems. At least as a group. Chrissy says that it's 24/7 recess over there. Yeah, that does seem to be the case. I have no idea why they're always so loud. Like, shouldn't it really just be around noon that you get like your recess and then that's it? That's all I remember getting, is like a little bit of time right after lunch. But these kids seem to just be out there all day. I don't know. Oh my god, it's just crazy. It's crazier than I realized. I might have like actually given this a second thought as to streaming right now, but anyway. What are you doing tomorrow for the prompt chicken? That's Nintendo'd. I don't know. Haven't really thought ahead on any of these until like the day of. I've got some loose ideas of some characters that I would like to draw if the prompt seems to fit them. Chicken. If I can think of someone like Cowardly, that might sort of fit, but I don't know. Nothing pops into my mind off the top of my head right now, so I can't think of anyone that's like sort of got anything to do with chickens, really. Except Gonzo from the Muppets? Wasn't he dating a chicken? I hope I'm remembering that right, or I sound extra weird. The screams from these kids, it's like, I know that they're playing because I don't hear sirens, but it might as well be them screaming bloody murder. It's so intense. This used to be the room that my fiance would work in, and they were just too loud for her to get her work done. So now she works, she's set up a workstation in the bedroom on the other end of the house, in the master bedroom. Marty McFly. That's not a bad idea. Cowardly Lion. These are some good impressions. Hawk and Dove for chicken. That's wow. These are all fantastic suggestions. That's some clever thinking there, folks. I love these suggestions. I'll definitely give it some serious thought. Thank you. I would enjoy drawing any of those. So I'll give that some serious thought. All right, I'm gonna bust out this new sort of brush pen that I have for some of the larger black lines that I want to take on. And if I get quiet every once in a while right now, it's not because I'm tired, it's just me concentrating on making a smooth line or detail. And I will do my best to not take too long before I continue on with a story or look to the chat for whether there might be a question, something like that. Let me think if I've got any sort of stories to tell. What would be a good topic of discussion today? Let's see, the prompt is spell. I'm trying to think if I've got any stories to do with, like, maybe magic or anything like that. I'm not too into magic as, like, an entertainment. I've every once in a while, like, taught myself like a card trick or two, but then I always sort of forget because I'm not that interested in it. Or maybe like something that could have been a supernatural experience. I'm pretty skeptical by nature, so I'm not sure that I really believe in anything like ghosts or that. Super Grandma with Chicken Soup to the Rescue is a suggestion from TARDIS writer. Sladana says, what do you use for editing and what did you use in the beginning? I've always used the same thing, Adobe Premiere. I like it quite a bit. It's versatile, it's responsive. One of my cats is trying to get himself invited into the room because he can hear that I'm in here. So I'm going to actually let him in. Excuse me. Hey. I'm back. Do you like Penn and Teller? Yeah, I certainly like them more around like middle school. I found them very entertaining, funny. And they're definitely good at magic. There's no question about that. But I can't like claim to be a super fan because I've never really tried to watch everything they've made, anything like that. What do you want, kitty? This character's costume is all sort of black leather, so at a certain point I'm just going to be filling in large swaths of black areas and having very small amounts of highlights. Have I ever played Magic the Gathering? Yeah, it's been a long time since I have, but I did have a coworker who once introduced me to Magic the Gathering, and we would spend almost all of our work lunch breaks playing it. We would hang out at his desk, and that was good times. That was really fun. That was a great way to sort of spend our lunch hour just talking and playing a game. But when I moved across the country a few years ago, I sold all my Magic cards. Well, you know what? I'll say almost all my Magic cards. Every once in a while I go through a box of stuff and I find like 2 or 3 that like I thought that I'd sold them all, and I guess I hadn't quite sold them all. But I don't really know where I placed them. because I'm not playing anymore. I don't know anyone who plays. But yeah, it was a good game. I used to. This will probably like date me if anybody actually knows anything about Magic the Gathering. But I built a deck of all slivers, which were sort of dragons, I want to say, and they all like sort of worked together really, really well. They would sort of all boost each other's powers and stuff. So I remember having that. I don't remember too much else. Fun question, though. Thank you for helping me reminisce about a good time. Alright. Almost have the complete outline of what I'm going to do. Just going to block in a little more. Magik wears a unique headdress. I'll just sort of fill that in real quick. Hopefully I can keep my lines straight enough that I don't screw up here. And then I can start to work on actual character detail, which is kind of the most fun part, although like I always find the hands and face a little extra challenging because that's where I want to keep things the most realistic and the most expressive. So those are my sort of competing goals, and yeah, I'm just not necessarily as good as, you know, a professional comic book artist. I'm just a guy that enjoys drawing. Might have slightly better than average skill, but definitely not quite pro level, you know? Yeah, so I'll put down the thicker pen for a moment, and let me see, I'll use a small brush pen next. Let's see, favorite Bat villain? No obvious answers like the Joker. Oh, favorite Bat villain aside from the Joker? Catwoman works really well because it's a conflict when she's a villain. Like, you know, Batman likes her but doesn't want to let her commit a crime, so that's always an interesting conflict in how he resolves that. I always think that Bane has a tremendous amount of potential. He's had a few good arcs and a few that are only average, but I always liked, the thing I liked about Bane was that he was a little stronger than Batman, and he was almost as smart. So I like that he was a challenge in more than one way. Ra's al Ghul is also up there. So I know I just said I was going to do some detail, but instead I'm just going to, this is sort of detail, but I'm just trying to work on some areas that are delicate, that are right up against black areas. Just sort of giving myself a little bit more of a border to work around for an area or two. Hope that makes sense. Yeah, today's going to be busy. It's one of my few days off, and I've got a lot of sort of chores that I need to get done, and I need to work on comic tropes. So it's going to be a busy day. But it's all sort of voluntary stuff, right? Like doing chores and doing comic tropes. I mean, it sure beats tarring roofs or lifting pianos for a living, so I'm not really complaining. Just gonna have a big busy day for sure. Yeah, that looks okay, I guess. I miss having lots of money. But you know what is good about not having as much money as I used to is I don't have cable, so I'm not watching as much TV. I'm not buying video games. I'm not buying like Lego or anything. So instead of having those distractions, I really am working a lot more on what I can do with comic tropes or spending my time in more productive ways like this. It's not as relaxing, but it's more productive. You know, it's satisfying. Like I'd love to be able to just veg out and watch some TV or play a video game. I miss it, but it's not as productive. It doesn't make you like feel quite as accomplished as like when I finish this. Even if it's not great, I'll still sort of feel good about myself because I at least tried to improve. I like it. I always feel good after I've spent some time sitting down to draw. I don't know if I'm making 100% sense, if I'm communicating clearly, because I'm also sort of focusing on what's right in front of me. But yeah, the gist of it is that I'm happy with what I'm doing. Makes me feel good. Hope that makes sense. Oh my goodness, hold on, I got a super chat here, so let me scroll up and see what that says. It says, from MM, congrats on 25,000 subs. Thank you. I love the channel. Your trope series has introduced me to a lot of cool comics and artists I probably wouldn't have found on my own. Thanks for all your hard work. Wow. Wow, that is really amazing. Thank you so much. That is incredible. I'm glad that you're getting something out of it. I'll keep trying to do my best. Okay? That's what I will do. I will just keep trying to do my absolute best, and support like that really makes it feel worthwhile. Like I'm not just sort of wasting my time. So, thank you. Wow. That kind of generosity really, I don't think it'll ever stop surprising me. I really don't. But, it's always sincerely appreciated. Check the comments in just a sec. See if there's any good questions in there that'll lead me on if I'm lucky, some sort of tangent or a story. That's what's best. I love telling stories. I'm just bad at like thinking ahead and planning them out. Okay, what kind of games do you play? I wouldn't say that I've got a lot of time these days, but I did get the Spider-Man game. I've played through a lot of that. Haven't finished it all. Don't know when I will, but I like that. So I sometimes like platformers or action games, whichever you want to classify that. I guess that's sort of a free roaming action game. So I like stuff like Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption when I have time. I like first-person shooters. I haven't gotten a Call of Duty game in a few years, but I generally tend to like those. And what else do I really like? I like the Lego games. When I have time, I find those quite relaxing. I just like to try to get 100% on those, and yeah, I get a kick out of that stuff. So those are some of the games. And then various like apps on your phone. All right. You are clear. I can relate to what you're doing. Continue your great work. That's very kind of you, Chris Nolan. Wow. And by the way, I really love your movies. Now, I know your name is spelled differently. I'm sure you get that a lot, so I'll shut up. No Hurt Feline says, what Marvel hero would make for a great Bizarro counterpart? Probably someone very sort of straight-laced, because then their Bizarro part as like a natural opposite would kind of be amusing. So maybe Captain America having like a Bizarro counterpart could be pretty entertaining, right? I think so. Maybe Thor? But in a way, Loki is just sort of a clever version of that. Bring that in. Yeah. Would you consider doing Garth Ennis comic tropes again? Yeah, I think I would actually. I feel like, that was an early episode, still sort of finding my way. Don't think it's really my personal favorite. Might even be my least favorite of what I've done. And I did like Preacher a lot when I was young. Uh, I feel like I've got more to say. So yeah, I think that is definitely a possibility at some point that I would revisit Garth Ennis and talk more about his history and his techniques. That's definitely of like my earliest episodes. That and Brian Michael Bendis, or well, and maybe even Frank Miller. A lot of that early stuff, I sort of feel like I'd want to sort of revisit and take another deeper dive type look at. Let's see. Isn't Hydra Cap already Bizarro Cap? Well, I mean, it's not just an opposite. Like you could say that by that logic, like Venom or Carnage is an opposite Spider-Man. But Bizarro, I was really taking quite literally to sort of be a sort of mixed up, not very intelligent, very opposite character, and not just philosophically, but like everything. I don't know how good I am at drawing bangs, but it's what I'm attempting to do right now. Bangs and pretty straight hair. And I will keep talking in just a moment. Just figuring out something here. Don't really love how that came out. I guess I wasn't 100% sure what I was doing before I started drawing. So, whatever. The hair is only average. Anyone excited for the new Daredevil season? I am. I think it looks like it'll take some inspiration from the Born Again storyline, which is one of my personal favorite Daredevil storylines. I think it probably is my favorite Daredevil storyline, barring like sort of like one part that I don't love. But yeah, anyway. Oh yeah, Sladana points out there are Bizarro versions of Cap, Thor, and Hawkeye in a sense. Hammer, Militant, and Bowman. That's sort of a good point. They're kind of close. I just bought the Magik miniseries from the 80s for dirt cheap. Thanks, eBay. Yeah, Voodoo Zombie. Yeah, I totally remember that. But what I don't remember now, and I'm trying to think back, was the art by Brett Blevins or somebody else? Because I did like Brett Blevins' art on New Mutants. Some people not as much a fan, but I am a fan. I think he has a very unique, cool style. Alright, that's not the right tool to use. Let me fill in some more black for a moment. A little bit mindless, but it's important to do. And you know what? Before I go too far, why don't I take a question and see where I go with that? What parts of Born Again did you not like? Just one, in a sense, the inciting incident. I think that the idea that Frank Miller had of turning Karen Page into a junkie and a prostitute was unnecessary, that he could have accomplished that in some other fashion. I mean, the inciting incident needs to be Kingpin discovering Daredevil's identity and breaking him down. But I don't know that we needed to take down Karen Page, who I just don't feel like that really fit with her character, no matter how you write it. I just don't feel that that makes sense to me, that she would have, like, fallen into drugs and pornography. That just never felt accurate. And I think we lost a pretty awesome long-term supporting character when he did that, you know? So I'm not against, darkness and depressing stuff, but I just feel that that wasn't an accurate character to use. It could have been like, Matt Murdock gets around a little, He's had a lot of different relationships, and they could have used a much less important former girlfriend, or even invented a new one, and I think that the overall story would have had entirely the same impact, because I don't know, I just don't feel that, I think Karen sort of gets lost in that story. I think, the only important part is getting the inciting incidents going, and after that, it's very much Matt Murdock rebuilding his life and meeting his mother, and that's what's most important, not his dating life. So that's the part that I don't like. But the rest of it is fantastic. The artwork by David Mazzucchelli is amazing. Just how serious the stakes get for Daredevil. I think that there's a reason why writers like Bendis and Brubaker and Wade have sort of returned to that idea of Matt Murdock's idea getting out and how he reacts to it. So that sort of happened for him for the first time in any meaningful way in Born Again. I think the kids might be getting a little quieter, but I probably shouldn't jinx it by saying that. In 2 issues, he turns Daredevil's world upside down. Yeah, totally. Born Again was the first comic to get a major emotional reaction out of me. Yeah, it's good. It's good. It definitely was different than anything else I think that had been done up to that point with any mainstream superhero characters. So that's a big plus. And hey, it gave us Nuke. Nuke always just felt like a villain that only was really necessary for just that story, and it always sort of cracks me up that he ended up finding his way back into comics and Wolverine and Captain America and the Jessica Jones TV show. I was like, really? Nuke? I mean, he worked just fine within the context of Born Again, but he definitely didn't seem like he had that much more that you could do with him, and I'm not convinced that anyone really has. But maybe I'm being too negative there. I just think he's just sort of an average sort of strong guy. He's just sort of a deluded, mindless soldier. It's not I mean, I guess you could build on that, but why? Has there been a great nuke story? I don't know. Top 10 worst tattoos in comics, says Voodoo Zombie. I can't think of that many characters off the top of my head that have tattoos. What have they, like Dawkins, Wolverine's son? He's got like tribal tattoos all over. Who else has a bunch of, or an interesting tattoo? I guess they made Bullseye get that embarrassing Bullseye tattoo on his head in reaction to the movie from like 2003 or something. Although that, now that I think of it, that's not really a tattoo so much as just like body modification, like marking. I didn't think that was an improvement on his look at all. But I guess I also don't care that much. Nuke's face tattoo is what got you thinking of it, of course, of course. Chris, what are some of your top favorite Simpsons episodes? Oh, cool question. I haven't really watched Simpsons the last couple years, but I do like The Simpsons. Let me see what I remember, and that'll probably stand out as my favorite episodes. Definitely the monorail episode. Excuse me, hiccup. The monorail episode is my absolute favorite. That one makes me laugh out loud still. What else stands out? Homer going back to college was really good. What stands out? You know what? I just haven't thought of Simpsons in long enough that there's not a lot more flooding into my memory. It's more just like little one-liners and jokes. I do remember laughing pretty hard at the, and I don't remember what episode this was, but Stan Lee came to the comic book guy's store and tried to convince Bart that a Thing action figure in the Batmobile was cooler than Batman, and he like threw away the Batman figure and just like broke the Batmobile, shoving the Thing in. He's like, much better, and I was just like, it's just dumb and funny. The episode with Hank Scorpio, the James Bond villain. Oh yeah, a bunch of people are saying that. Treehouse of Horror, there's a lot of great ones there. Favorite Vertigo title? That's hard. There have been some amazing Vertigo titles. Probably my favorite would be Why the Last Man. But Preacher and Fables are both up there. I feel like the Swamp Thing by Alan Moore was still pre-Vertigo, right? And then as soon as he was off, Swamp Thing sort of became a Vertigo title. I just want to make sure I have that right. So I don't know if that counts. I know I read a lot of others, but those are the ones that stand out. Why the Last Man's probably my favorite. I do like the new one, Border Town, by the Reborn Vertigo. I thought that was an interesting sort of premise and hook. We'll see. Goddess by Innocent Fabry. Sure, that's cool. Frank Grimes episode of Simpsons. Yep. What else? I've been reading American Vampire, and I'm surprised how much I'm enjoying it so far. I've read a little bit of American Vampire. It was kind of cool. Haven't read the whole thing. Oh, I just thought of another Vertigo title that I liked. Scalped by Jason Aaron. I thought that one was really good. I came down with the flu one day, and I couldn't really do anything much more than just read. You know, I couldn't even really focus on TV. It was too much motion for me. But I could relax enough to read, and I during recovering from the flu, I read all 60 issues of Scalped. I just got it digitally, and I just kept buying the next issue and the next issue. So that was one I really enjoyed. One of my students came to me to show some chain mail he had 3D printed. Cool. Voodoo Zombie says, rest in peace, Carlos Ezquerra, my fellow Spaniard and creator of Great Brit Comics in 2000 AD. Yeah, I mentioned him last night. He was great. He was great. Very sad when a great comic book creator passes like that, and I wish I had more time to make an episode dedicated to his work right now, and right now I just don't. I'm already sort of, I have to really plan ahead to maximize what little time I have, what little free time I have. So I wasn't able to just sort of jam in an extra episode for when Norm Brayfogle passed or Carlos Ezquerra. Those are both recent passings by creators whose comics I personally got a lot of enjoyment out of. And I would have loved to have discussed their history and their contributions to put into context what makes them special, in my opinion. But right now I don't have that kind of time, and it'll have to just come out down the road. Down the road, I definitely will. Do I read manga? A little bit. I've read Junji Ito. I like some horror stuff. I love Naoki Urasawa, so I'll read anything by him. I'm reading My Hero Academia. I hope after this to go pick up the latest issue that just came out a couple days ago. Not a lot of manga, but some. I will. What else am I looking forward to? Or do I like to read? Lately, I've really been fiending for. I'd love to get Akira by Katsuhiro Otomo, the whole collection, because I don't think I've actually ever sat down and read the entire thing. So I would very, very much like to do that. Don't know. I really can't realistically afford it right now, so I haven't really been thinking about it, but I know that that's something I'd really love to read in the near future if I can sort of find the time. Hey, by any chance, are any of you going to New York Comic Con today, tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday? Just curious. One of my favorite conventions. Not there this year, obviously, but yeah, just curious if any of you are going. Let's see here. Just darkening in some black areas, and then I will take another look to see what amazing questions are being put forth. Voodoo Zombie says, don't do well in crowded places. Well, yeah, the New York Comic Con is very, 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 very crowded. Very, very crowded. But they do a little bit better as they go on, I think. They try to take full advantage of the entire space available at the Javits Center. By the way, I don't know the full details, but I recently heard that the Jacob Javits Center is actually controlled, allegedly, by the mob. And I'm wondering how much truth there is in that, because that'd be pretty ironic for the New York Comic Con, all these superheroes and just heroes in general utilizing that space. But also, I guess, what option do you have if you want to put a big convention in New York City. You don't have a lot of options. So I'm curious how much truth there is to that. My good friend used to go every year, and he said he won't go anymore because the last time he went, he did nothing but sit in lines. Well, I guess if you want to get into panels, that is what will happen. I gave up on panels a long time ago because I'm like, you know what? I can just read the results online uh, right afterwards. Somebody's reporting on it somewhere. And it's not like I'm getting to personally interact with the celebrity. I mean, I guess you could technically ask a question on a lot of panels, but it just seemed like more trouble than it was worth. So I sort of gave up on the lines, and I just mostly focus on looking at the cosplay, digging through back issues to look for the weirdest stuff to potentially review, and just sort of getting good deals on like trade paperbacks, and mostly just seeing friends at like Artist Alley, areas like that. And then I feel like these days really like one day is plenty for me. I don't really need all 4 days. Just sort of depends on what's going on. Like if a certain friend can only make it in on one day, I might literally just go in for an hour or so and just say hello to them and catch up and talk, see what I see, and then take off. But one day is generally enough for me. Anyway, I do like it. I mostly like just being in New York and seeing friends, and therefore I'm missing it big time right at this minute. I will all weekend, as I see on social media, like friends and stuff post all the fun stuff that's going on that I feel like I'm sort of missing out on this year for the first time. Man, I remember the very first year it happened, and there was really no way of knowing how popular it necessarily would be. They didn't even rent the full convention center that year. I think just the downstairs, if I remember correctly, just the downstairs, which was really only about at most a third of the entire convention center. Which is still a lot of space, but it wasn't quite as big as it became. And so my friend that lives in New York said that he'd pick up the tickets for us all. Cool. I would just meet him there. I get there, and he'd planned on getting them the day of. I thought that he'd bought them at like, Midtown Comics or someplace that was carrying him, and he was just like, no, I didn't think I'd need to. And of course it had sold out. It sold out that very first year, right off the bat. So this was before they had electronic badges, and obviously I know a fair amount of people that work in comics and stuff, so I just started making phone calls and had a friend walk out with some extra badges of other people that were already inside, and we all slipped them on. My friend from New York and his wife and I, and we all just got into the convention center and gave the badges back. And that first year, no one was checking, so the very first year we technically snuck in, but every year after that, like I would either get, I'd buy a badge, or I'd get a pro badge, or I'd get a press badge. Like it really just depended on what my plans were. Most years I was able to get a pro badge, so that was nice. That was nice. And it's just a convention that I really enjoy because it brings so many people out. It can be overwhelming. It's not necessarily the place to find, weird indie treasures or get tremendous deals. I don't care too much about exclusive toys and things like that come to conventions, but it's a lot of fun. The cosplay scene has just exploded. When I first started going to comic book conventions in Boston in like I'll say the late 80s and early 90s, cosplayers were there, but it was rare. It was rare, and they were mostly there for a contest that would always take place like on Saturday night. That was the way it was for most Comic-Cons. And at some point, that switched and it became a very commonplace, standard activity to just see more and more cosplay. And I feel like it's almost a third of the people that go to conventions now are wearing some sort of a cosplay outfit. It's really quite amazing how popular it's become. And I think that that's because like what you can do that's unique at a convention has changed. See, when I was going, like I say, in late 80s or early 90s, there was no internet really. So some of the most popular stuff would be the ability to find back issues because you couldn't get anything digitally or ordered on eBay or Amazon, right? So it was definitely more important to get back issues at conventions. And they would often have these bootlegger tables with all sorts of bootleg movies and stuff like that on VHS that you just couldn't get anywhere else. So that was like one of the most popular things back in the day at a Comic-Con. And now that just isn't important at all because anybody can get that online. So I think cosplay is sort of taken over as the most unique thing you can experience at a Comic-Con now. So it's just become more and more popular. Just my 2 cents anyway. I could be wrong. In general, my favorite conventions are the smaller to medium-sized ones. I've always enjoyed, like, you know, the Baltimore Comic-Con I used to go to when I lived in DC. That was a good sort of mid-sized Comic-Con that would get a couple good celebrity pro guests that you could maybe get your comic signed by, ask a few questions. And then I like small ones like the Small Press Expo, where you get like nothing but independent and self-published and small press books. There's a lot of passion there, so you can find some really unique stuff that can be like really funny or different or interesting. Not as much superhero stuff, but like plenty of crime, autobiography, comedy, just all sorts of ideas like that, and that totally works for me. All right, I haven't looked at the questions in a little bit. Let's see. Ever consider doing a Comic Tropes episode on the Phantom Stranger from the late 60s going into the 70s? Seems right up your alley. Yeah, I would consider doing that, Billy. Cool question. I would definitely consider that. Tony says, what I meant to say was, and I'm sorry I missed your previous stuff, he says, I was unable to go, so while in France I went to La Festival de la Bande Dessinée, which is a fantastic convention. Oh yeah, I would love to go to, what's the big French convention, Angoulême? I would love to go there. How many European comics do you read? I don't know that I read any on the regular. I really more catch up in trade paperbacks and stuff like that. Right now I'm reading the stuff by Hugo Pratt. What was his character? Cordo Maltese. I'm reading those right now, and I'm reading some Dylan Dog comics. Those are Italian. What else am I reading from? And I've got the latest trade paperback of Black Sad. So I guess I do read some. I guess I'm not thinking of them all, but I read a little bit, not a lot. I'm always looking for, you know, something good there, though. I'm always looking for something that I haven't discovered yet that's, you know, well reviewed and appreciated. Yeah, this is coming along okay, I guess. Right? Appreciate everybody hanging out, asking questions, talking with each other. Do you know the comic convention Crack Bang Boom from Argentina? No, Lucas. I have to admit I don't know that one. Is it a pretty big convention? I'll admit, like, I only know a small handful of Argentinian comic book creators. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Eduardo Risso is an artist from Argentina. and I like his work. I read a vampire book by him that I'm pretty sure was published in Argentina, if I'm remembering correctly. And what's is there a book called something like the the Eternal Walker or something like that? The Eternal Traveler. I'm trying to remember the name. It's been a few years since I've read it, but that's I believe an Argentinian comic. So yeah, I do try to inform myself. Billy asks who's going to see Venom tomorrow. Well, I don't know about you, but over here it's playing this afternoon at most of my theaters. I saw it like at least 5 o'clock. It was playing at several theaters around here. So I think it sort of opens today. Maybe they're just not announcing that per se, but it seems to be in most big theaters as of this afternoon. You know what? Honestly, they're probably doing that to get ahead of like the bad word of mouth and stuff. To like anyone that's excited for it, like hopefully get them in before, because it doesn't seem like the reviews are that strong. I am still a little curious about it. It's not like every review has been bad. It's just that it's gotten several that aren't great. So I don't know. Cazador is a great Argentinian comic. Also, The Eternaut. The Eternaut was the one I was thinking of. I just couldn't like think of who I was talking about. Oh yeah, and Tony Hugh says there's an amazing artist from Italy called Sergio Topi. His ink work is fantastic. I've definitely seen some of his work. Not sure if I've read a whole comic by him. Yeah, very detailed artwork. Very, very impressive. Definitely a master. I think in terms of my personal favorite comic for just the visuals alone, I'd go with Black Sad. And the story is also strong because I do like crime stories and mystery stories. I'm not super into the idea of sort of, like talking animal type world, like almost furry type characters, but it looks so damn good, it doesn't matter. It's like it just looks awesome. So Black Sad is probably my favorite current European comic for overall visuals. Yeah. I'm curious what the most popular thing coming out of like France or Belgium right now is, because they're very passionate about their comics. There's probably something really fantastic coming out from that part of the world right now, but I can't think of what it would be right now. I'll have to do some research after finish drawing here. This black pen that I found, I think it's by Pentel. It's not too bad. It takes a minute to dry, but it dries pretty black. Maybe it's not Pentel actually. Well, I think it is though. It's got Japanese writing all over it, but I'm pretty sure I opened it. Yeah, I think it's this. The Duo Point Flex Double-Ended Brush. Black water-based ink. Yeah, it's pretty nice. And I can just switch over here and I've sort of got a nice fine nib to do some feathering or something like that, or some fine details on things like faces or hands or objects, electronics. Anyone else love Animal Man New 52? The art style was something. I knew a girl in art history and she said Swamp Thing did a great certain type of art. Animal Man New 52. Please read for horror. If you're talking about those first several issues by Travel Foreman, I completely agree. Travel's a friend of mine, and at one point we were going to do a comic book together, but he's definitely kind of hard to nail down and stay in touch with. But boy, is he talented. That guy is amazing. He studied under. He did an internship at Wildstorm. Learned under Jim Lee. When he wants to, he travel can just do some of the best art out there. Just some of my absolute favorite. I'm not sure what the last thing he did was. Great channel, by the way. Thank you, Lucas. Always appreciate that. Voodoo Zombie says Black Sad was huge there in Spain. Yeah. Isn't it a Spanish artist? I mean, I believe it's published by a French publisher, but I'm pretty sure that the artist is Spanish, if I remember correctly. I don't have it in front of me, so I'm bad at remembering names. Trick when doing this is not to push down too hard, because then you can like really totally ruin the brush. But that is why I have this bigger brush, is to do the larger areas. So if it gets ruined, it gets ruined, but hopefully I don't ruin it before the ink runs out. What else can I talk about? Any questions? Okay, Voodoo Zombie says I'm correct about the Black Sad artist. Yes, he was a Spaniard. It was huge because he didn't have famous artists since Bernet, or we didn't have famous artists since Bernet or Pacheco. Is that true? Lucas says about the Crack Bang Boom. It is kind of big in South America. It's still growing, and it was founded by Eduardo Risso. Well, that was the artist I was talking about earlier that I thought was Argentinian. It sounds like I'm right. Is he the most popular comic book creator from Argentina that's working these days? I don't know. I feel like he's at least one that I know, so there's a possibility, but I don't know. I don't always keep up with where every artist is from, so. But I'd love to do some more episodes exploring like some great artists that work in American comics but are from other countries, and when that maybe sort of became more commonplace, how that sort of became a possibility. For the longest time, Japanese manga would only allow Japanese artists to work in it, but these days, as long as you speak fluent Japanese, they'll hire non-Japanese people, which mostly ends up being talented artists from Korea, maybe Singapore, but they do have some non-Japanese artists working on big hit titles. You just have to be able to speak Japanese fluently. I wish I did. If I spoke Japanese fluently, I'd try to get a job over there. I really do like it there. It's not like it's perfect. I just really do like it. But I also feel like I don't know, I feel like it's definitely not one of my strengths to be good at a foreign language. I had a hard time learning Spanish, and I feel like I've forgotten most of it after I required my mandatory college credits in it. Took that for like 4 semesters, like 2 years. But I just don't feel like I'm very good at Spanish. I only know 2 or 3 phrases, really. I don't know. Maybe some of the vocabulary would come back to me if it was an immersive situation, like if I had to live in Spain or Mexico or something like that. Maybe some of the vocabulary would pop back into my head. I don't know. They say that that's what happens, but I don't know if that's true. Okay. Todd McFarlane, isn't he Canadian? Yep. Voodoo Zombie says the Filipino wave of the 90s. And that's going to be an episode sometime, hopefully not too far away. I'm going to talk about the Filipino invasion. Will you be selling any of these or do any as commissions? I don't have time to really take on commissions. Would I sell them? I guess I did give away some last year to like friends and stuff. So maybe I'd give them away. I'd feel kind of guilty like selling them. I'm not sure that they're worth anything, you know? I mean, I'm not a superstar artist or anything, so I'd have to think about that one. It's hard to come up with like, you know, what a fair value is when I'm not like, you know, a full-time artist or anything. You know, I guess I'm close to done, folks. If I had an oval template, I'd probably draw like one of her discs. Let me zoom out so that you can see everything. But yeah, I feel like that's a decent result for today. I probably made her face a little thinner than I would have preferred. I was trying to sort of age her up from her New Mutants days when I would have given her an intentionally rounder face, but I still feel like I could have kept some of that. If you sell them, have it be the cost of shipping. Well, yeah, I guess I'd have to at least do that. I'm not rich. I don't know. I don't know what you know. If I sold it, it would probably be an absolute minimum of $25 just to be worth my time to get to the post office and put it in shipping. But I might want to even charge more if I actually decided to sell it. So I don't know. You know, I'll think about it. I'll think about it. Maybe in a week or two, I'll just sort of show the stack of what's been created and see if anybody's interested in any of it, and I'll take it from there. So I'm just cleaning up some of the pencil marks to try to make it a little cleaner at this point, a little bit better presentation, but yeah, it's not my best, it's not my worst. I think I prevented myself from making any huge mistakes on it, you know? And I didn't make any huge mistakes, and that's something. That's progress. All right, there's a couple more lines I'm going to add to this act. Oh, shoot. I erased the face too soon after I've worked. I'll have to clean that up later. I smeared some ink. Dumb. Dumb. That's too bad. Well, darn. I didn't mean to do that. $40 is fair, especially if you draw Batgirl or Moon Knight. Super Mario Party comes out tomorrow. Okay, that's interesting. I would have paid like $100 for that G.I. Joe. Oh, the one the day before yesterday. Okay, well, I'll keep this in mind. Okay, so tomorrow's prompt is chicken. And I was sort of trying to think of like maybe a cowardly character or a character somehow related to at least birds. I know that that's a little bit of a stretch, but like I feel like it wouldn't be unfair if I drew the falcon, you know, just because chicken got me thinking. It's not that I don't feel like I want to be 100% literal with the prompts. I want to instead just let them inspire me. You know what I'm going to do? I don't know if it'll fix it, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try to color it and just see if that does anything. Anything to mitigate my mistake. And it's just relaxing to draw with Copics, in my opinion. Boy, it sounds like some sort of like professional soccer game is being played out there by those middle schoolers. Oh my gosh, they're so loud. That is looking awesome. Thank you, Tank Ferret. That's really nice. Just draw Animal Man with the powers of a chicken. Hey, now that's thinking outside the box. Yep, Hawk and Dove suggested again. Scooby-Doo and Shaggy. Harvey Birdman. Beak from the X-Men. A green chicken and call him Beast Boy. These are some really clever suggestions, guys. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, those are, like, all very, very good ideas for, like, something to draw. And yeah, I mean, I'm only going to be able to sort of do one thing tomorrow, but those are all good ideas. We'll just give Ilyana here a little bit of skin color. I'm painting her pretty pale. I mean, she's Russian, and yes, she grew up on a farm, but she came to America very, very young. I think she'd probably have sort of almost Scandinavian blood in her with that light hair. I don't know if that's accurate or not to the comics, but I just sort of feel like she'd be very pale. She also spent a lot of her life growing up in a demon dimension where there was no sun. There was fire, but no sun, so I just feel like her skin would naturally be very pale from growing up in that kind of an environment. Now let me pick a really pale gray for some areas that I want to darken just a tad. That's the great thing about Copics, is how they'll blend like this. So I can grab a very, very light gray and sort of do a wash over the pink, and it works, you know. That looks a little better. Oh, you guys can't really see this, can you? That feels like it's kind of blurry. I know what I need to do. I just need to raise this all a little more. I just realized that I had two pads under here yesterday, and it makes a difference. There, that's a little better. The Colonel himself chased by a flock of cuckoos. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Superman turned into a chicken with red kryptonite. And I believe there was a Savage Dragon villain called something like Powerhouse. That could be the wrong name, but he was basically just a super strong guy with a chicken face. So yeah, there have been a few characters out there that could fit for chicken for the theme. Alright, what else? Maybe a nice warm gray for some of these leather areas. See how that works. Yeah, I think that works pretty well. I think that works quite well. And I'll dip down a notch to a slightly less warm gray for some of these highlights. Just trying to even out some of the black here with a little bit of a warm gray on top. I think it's working for the most part. And really, like, you could clean this up quite a bit and make it look a lot better in Photoshop. I'm just seeing what the art of the possible is with these Copics. It's fun. It's really fun to work with Copics. I wish I was a better colorist. Give me a moment to just fill in some of these areas, and then I'll peek my eye at the chat room, see what folks are talking about and whether there's any questions. Alright, let's see. Markers. You mind if I steal the Magik idea tonight? I was going to do Doctor Strange, but I think she would push my abilities further. Different pose, obviously. Yeah, of course, man. I don't own this character. Do it. Do it. Go nuts. It's a great idea. How much does it cost for an original Animal Man cost in America? Grant Morrison. Just wondering. I bought one for €2 in a book market. I don't know exactly what it's going for, but that sounds like a totally fair price for me for Grant Morrison era. That sounds totally reasonable. Thoughts on new Joker? Don't have any really at this point. At first I didn't think he looked great, but then I saw some further photos and I was like, oh, maybe that'll work. You know, it's not an idea that necessarily excites me personally, but I'm sure you could tell an interesting story with him if there's a good script. So yeah, hope that that's what they've got. Anyway, bottom line is, could be good. Don't have any strong opinions. What else? Maybe just the lightest yellow that I have, which I guess is going to be this, and I wonder if that's going to be too... I'm just going to make a mark on a piece of paper over here. Well, it's definitely a brighter yellow than I would have liked to have used, but it's all I've got, so I'm going to just use it on her hair. And I think that'll add some sort of secondary color interest to this piece, and then I can sort of wash over it with some really light gray to give it some depth. That's working. Almost done here, everybody. Joe Pesci is the new Joker. Do I amuse you, Batman? Joe Pesci. I miss Joe Pesci in movies, man. He's great. I guess he's retired, huh? I miss him. He was in so many good movies. He could be scary, he could be funny. He could do all sorts of stuff. What a talented actor. Alright, what's the lightest wash I have here? Okay, I'm going to use a W2 gray for just sort of a few areas. The second closest idea I had today, instead of drawing Magik, was I was very, very tempted to draw Sabrina Spellman because of that new trailer for her show coming up on Netflix. And that is, of course, a long time comic book character that probably hasn't been drawn a lot. But I also sort of didn't really know how to make her iconic. I thought it would be a lot of fun for me to draw her black cat, because she usually seems to have a black cat, but I didn't have any good sort of iconic ideas for how she should look. So I ultimately just said, well, I'll just do sort of generic, sexy, magical character, Ilyana here. Archie comics deserve more love. They do, yeah. Maybe I should review a Sabrina comic sometime soon. I'm going to give her just the slightest pink lips that I can. This is pretty much more of a peach, but it's got a little bit of pink in it. Yeah, I think that works very well, and I think it'll also work well for sort of eyeliner highlight. Yeah, I think that looks alright. Let me see if I've got anything else that I could do for sort of a whitish highlight. This is called Floral White, and I don't think it'll do much of anything, but let's just see. Not really, but it's not that bad. Okay. I guess I should sort of give this sword a color too. I'll give it a yellow. I'll just give it like an acid yellow. Magik says, my cat's name is Salem. That's awesome. That's so cool. Who's Word Girl? Wouldn't it have been great if Chris did Word Girl for Spell? Who's Word Girl? Huh. I don't know. You can sort of tell sometimes when a Copic marker is new or hasn't been used much because it has a very powerful smell to it, and this one does. I guess I've never really used acid yellow before. Okay. Coming up on the final touches, then I'll take a look at the chat room just to see if there are any final questions, and then I will take my leave. So what do I have? I think that this is the only... I don't have many yellow colors, so I'm going to have to use this one. So ask your final questions now. I'm about to check on them. Let's see. All right, there we go. That's what I came up with today for Magik, or Spell, excuse me. The character's name is Magik. Word Girl was a grammar-based superhero. Used to be on PBS. Oh, okay, interesting. That's from Faction Fusion. I can't wait for my hardback copy of Anthony Bourdain's Hungry Ghosts to arrive. Very cool. Yep. Too bad he won't be making any more comics. He was passionate about them. Tony says, have you seen the French comic XII by the late William Vance and Jean Van Ham? No, but I am aware of it. I have not seen the comic. They made a video game over here about it. Mind if I ask what your current reads are? Not a lot. In front of me right now to finish, what do I have? I have Monstrous, Volume 1. Haven't read that before, was curious. And Volume 1 of The Wicked and the Divine. So those are two Image books. I think, My Hero Academia I'm reading. That's about it, but I'll probably go to the comic book store soon and see what Marvel and DC are putting out for superhero stuff. My favorite artist is Mignola. My collector fetish are his covers. Totally agree. Mike Mignola, one of my all-time favorite characters. Sigmig says, I love Monstrous, and Masiesh, I'm just guessing at the name, sorry if I'm not pronouncing it right, says it's 13, X-I-I-I, excuse me. I did know that it was 13, I just didn't read it right, I guess. So, anyway, thank you all for the comments today. You guys also gave me a lot of great ideas for what tomorrow could be for chicken. Tomorrow I'll probably be doing early-ish afternoon, you know, maybe somewhere between 5 and 6 if I can get there in time. So that's my current plan. Thank you all for watching. I think that'll do it for this live stream. And yeah, just thank you so much for all your support. You guys are the best. Take care. Keep reading comics.